Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Roundup. Before I jump in, I want to remind everybody that we're about 3 months away from Retro World Expo in Hartford, Connecticut. This year, it'll be the weekend of September 12th, and while there's a lot of awesome stuff to announce, I'm going to start with a pretty big one. Tito from Macho Nacho Productions and Ken from What's Ken's Making is going to be doing a workshop where you'll get to rebuild a Game Boy Advance with a new case and a new screen. The price is $65 for the workshop, but everything is included except the Game Boy Advance. You'll need to bring your own GBA, and it has to be working other than the screen because you'll be replacing that, of course. But I thought that's absolutely awesome, as you'll be able to really have some hands-on experience and start working on this stuff. And I think it's a great way for people who might not be comfortable just starting out on their own to do a project with some experts and some other like-minded peers. So I'll leave a link in the description for that, and I'll have a lot more awesome announcements related to Retro World Expo, but I'm really fired up as usual. It's my favorite expo, and I hope to see so many of you there. But anyway, let's jump in and see what we got going on this week. First up, Ken from What's Ken Making recently posted a deep dive review of the upcoming Mr. MultiSystem 2, and this is exactly the type of video we were all waiting for to see what this thing is like. And overall, it's essentially like the original Mr. MultiSystem, but with everything being contained on one board. And it really is something that pushes the Mr. project to feel a lot more like a dedicated console. Now, it's awesome that we get to see this because while it's a pre-production unit, this has to be a mostly finished design. You can't just whip up a motherboard with an FPGA on it and send it out to reviewers unless it's like 99% finished. So this really does look like a solid view of what we would be getting a couple months from now when it ships. And overall, it just seemed awesome. Ken did his usual deep dive teardown, which is always appreciated by myself and my fellow nerds, and also summarized a lot of it in the post as well, if you prefer to read or just do both, to be honest. And overall, it looks great. The only downsides or complaints are kind of like what you would think from the original Mr. MultiSystem, where there's no direct snack adapters. You have to use their adapters, but their adapters are great. So this really does seem like a great choice for most people. And I'm interested to check one out myself. I was able to purchase one, so hopefully I'll be able to get it right when they're released. And it looks like taking Mr. one step closer to being a real console, which is, you could take that however you want. I meant that as a compliment because just remember that the DE10 Nano is essentially a dev board. So that's why most of Mr. setups look like science projects, because it was never meant to look like something nice on your shelf. But now it kind of is. So shout out to Ken for doing a great video, and I'm really looking forward to trying this out as well. Next up, Steeker recently posted a video about an interesting and weird story that I thought many of you might be interested in, about a Hong Kong-based bootleg Street Fighter comic book series that had them paired up fighting Dragon Ball Z-inspired characters that got so popular it went for over 100 issues, and Capcom eventually recognized it and made it part of the official Street Fighter series, including making merch based on it. So this is just one of those weird and fun stories about how sometimes the bootleggers got it right, I guess. So I don't know. This was interesting and just something that I thought many of us might be interested in because a lot of us kind of like these weird stories. So check out the post and, of course, Steeka's video if you want more info on all this. A couple of months ago, we talked about the Wuxi Saturn Switcher, which is a device that allows you to retain your original optical drive in your Sega Saturn while also installing optical drive emulators like the RIA, Phoebe, or Fenrir. And while of course you could get a Saroo or a Satiator to accomplish the same thing, what if you already own those other ODEs? Or what if there's a specific reason that you wanted to use like a Fenrir, but you also want to retain your original CD-ROM drive? And that is now being sold as a complete kit, including 3D printed parts and everything, and it looks awesome. Part of the installation is routing things to the rear, so you pop open the door that has the battery inside, the battery door that also holds the MPEG slot, and you could mount your micro SD card there, as well as use that to switch between the optical drive emulator or just the original CD. And while this is a solderless design, this is one board meant to interface with many different things, not just 20 and 21 pins, but you got different ODEs in there. So you're going to have to just pay attention to the different solder jumpers and make sure all the cables are oriented correctly. Dave's post has links to everything that you would need, though. There's an installation video and a demo. There's clear pictures to everything here and links to just everything that you would need. So I think this is absolutely awesome. I think personally, if I had bought a Fenrir, I don't think I would have ever felt the need to get rid of it for something else, but I would have liked to have the original optical drive. And I did own a Fenrir for a while, but it was one of those things where I usually ended up putting the original drive in because I had to do videos about comparisons and stuff like that. So something like this would have just been absolutely awesome, and I'm really glad that they're available for sale. So check out Dave's post for links and all the info that you would need, and awesome to see this out in the wild. After a long time of being out of stock, Tim Worthington has just released a new version of the 2600 RGB kit, which is an RGB, S-Video, and composite video kit for Atari 2600 consoles. And they are completely feature-filled with a bunch of different things like palette switching, and this one also has stuff like an on-screen menu, improved pause modes, sync correction, because the wonky vertical sync of the Atari sometimes has issues with different things, horizontal and vertical picture position adjustment, an onboard NTSC frequently oscillator that can make PAL and CCAM consoles run with exact NTSC timing, which is really helpful. And there's also good test modes, and compatibility with HD RetroVision cables is a lot better because those things need the same output that you would expect from either SNES or Genesis consoles, so you're able to work on all of that now. I believe this board went out of stock for so long because the parts changed, certain things went up in price, and it wasn't financially viable to make it. So Tim basically had to redesign it, but here it is. The price is about $70 plus shipping. It's available from both Tim in Australia as well as a US distributor. And I've personally used the original version and thought it was absolutely excellent. Now, of course, there are the Lumacode mods for the Atari 2600. So if you're looking to go directly to HDMI, or I guess only to RGB, with not all of these crazy extra features, that might be a better choice for you. So like if you just have an NTSC 2600 and you just want to plug it into your flat panel and not really worry, that might be a better option for you. But I think this one's definitely the one to go for if your focus is analog video output, as well as all of the other crazy features. So please check out the post and Tim's page for all the info that you want on it, but really glad to see these back in stock. Lou from Lou's Retro Source recently posted a video about the USBODE, which is an open source optical drive emulator that allows you to use a Raspberry Pi Zero W as an ODE for things like early DOS computers or early versions of Windows for basically retro PC use. And this even allows the use of CD audio, which might be a big help in certain situations with retro PCs. And the project's still in development, and there's only a test build available, but it seems pretty functional. Lou showed it off in his video, and it looked awesome, to be honest with you. You access things via a web interface, but I believe you could also have optional hardware installed and mount CD images right from the device itself. You just need one of those supported Pi hats that allows you to do it. But overall, if you're somebody who's into retro PCs and wants to be able to use CD-ROMs on it via an ODE instead of an original CD-ROM drive, you have to at least check out Lou's video and see if this is for you. There are some limitations. Most of them are related to the fact that it's still a work in progress project. But stuff like this very often seems to be ironed out over the years. The only thing that probably will be a final limitation is that it'll only work with computers with USB ports. So older computers without them would have to look at a device like the Zulu IDE. But on the software side of things, it still seems to be something that would probably have most of these bugs, or I don't even want to say bugs, just, normal development speed bumps fixed as the time goes on. So check out Lou's video and the post for all of the links that you need, but it's cool to see devices like this out there, especially open source devices that you could use with a Pi Zero W, because that really brings access or an availability to a lot more people. A few months ago, the Retro channel posted a video about the Stick Digitizer, which is a Lumacode mod for Intellivision consoles. And I saw the video when it came out, but at the time, the Stick Digitizer wasn't available for purchase, but it is now, so I figured this was a good time to write a post about it. I think it was actually available for a while now, and I just forgot, so my apologies to both Copper Dragon and the Retro channel, but we're here now, so if you have an Intellivision console and you wanted to use Lumacode to get HDMI or RGB output, this is definitely something to consider, because overall the installation is fairly easy. The Retro channel showed how to tap the Lumacode signal through RF, but you could do it any way you'd like, really. You could even just dangle a wire out the back. And the latest versions of the HDMI separate boards that they sell for it do support audio as well, which is kind of an easier upgrade for this. Now, if you're using an OSSC, that wasn't a big deal because you could route audio through that. However, I'm not sure if the OSSC firmware has been updated to support the Intellivision stick digitizer version of Lumacode. It definitely works with the NES, but I'm not 100% sure if it works with this one. So please let me know in the comments what you think about that. But overall, I love Lumacode mods. I think they're absolutely awesome. I think they might be a lot easier for some people, and it might open up the ability to have these consoles used in different ways, especially because of the lack of availability of other mods for a lot of these other consoles. So if you want to hear more about Lumacode, I did an interview with the creator Copper Dragon a while back, and Tito from Bacho Nacho Productions did a video on it. I am going to be doing some at least live streams on it in the upcoming months, but I just think it's got a ton of potential. So check out the video from Joe Dirt and have more info there. Next up, I am very excited to say that there is a new ROM cart available for the Virtual Boy called the Mr. Cart, and this one kind of runs more like a standard ROM cart, where you plug it into the console, you fire it up, and you select your game right from the on-screen menu. So no e-ink selecting like the other carts that are out there, and you don't need a PC to connect it to load up ROMs that way. It's just a standard ROM cart. This one was designed by the developer Mr. Flower, and Kevin Malott is actually doing a run of production with permission, of course, and which is awesome. You know, Kevin makes a couple of really, really good ROM carts for the Virtual Boy. This one seems awesome as well. So everybody's just kind of working together, and I love that there's choices. I know for a fact that there's going to be a bunch of people out there who say, this is cool, but I really prefer my e-ink version of it. And I'm sure there's going to be an equal amount of people that say, hey, this is cool, I prefer just the standard ROM cart. Let's do it this way. So there's choices. Everybody's working together. It's nothing but thumbs up here. And the cart should play everything, including hyperfighting, which means all homebrew should work as well. And homebrew, in my opinion, is the most important part of the Virtual Boy, because there absolutely are a couple of retail games that are worth playing that really show the potential of what it could do and how it was absolutely ahead of its time. But the homebrew scene is where you get all of the coolest and most unique games and stuff that uses techniques that Nintendo didn't think of back then, because they didn't leave it on the market long enough for people to think of this stuff. So it's really awesome to be able to experience that. And now here's just a different way of doing it. So the price is going to be about $200, and it's due to ship to customers by fall of this year. And if you want to see it in action, you could definitely check out the unboxing video and a couple of other things on there. And there's some just basic stuff to note about it, but it's just basic ROM cart stuff. Like the Mr. Cart will create a save game file for each ROM, even if a game doesn't support saves, because it's not going to try to figure out which does or doesn't. It'll just do it so it doesn't actually miss one. You need to put games in the games folder. You could only have 100 games per subfolder, but there aren't 100 games available for it. So there's just a bunch of little things that you should know, but nothing that I would call limitations, just stuff to know before you set it up. And of course, if you preferred the e-ink version of it, maybe hang out until Kevin Malott sells more of those. I have that original launch video back here, but I'm just excited. I like the Virtual Boy a lot. I like the homebrew the best, and now here's just another way of being able to experience that. I just posted a quick setup guide that shows you how to configure the micro SD card for use with your Saroo and your Sega Saturn, and it's super easy. Just format the card, dump in the firmware file, create subdirectories, and then modify the config file to match those subdirectories. It's as easy as it gets if you know what to do, but that was kind of an issue I ran into. So let me back up for a moment. Last week, I did a live stream where I took Cousin Scott's Saturn that hasn't been powered on in a couple of years now, and I wanted to make sure that it was still working. I wanted to remove a very old mod chip from it, and I wanted to test out the Saroo. And the stream shockingly went well with 0 things going wrong, which is not common for one of my streams. But One of the things that did happen was that I couldn't figure out how to configure the Saroo to use subfolders, which is a big deal for me because I really prefer everything sorted, whether it's by region, by which ROM hacks you're using, or just whatever you like to do to sort your cards. I don't like all the games just dumped in the root, which works fine if you only have a handful of games, but I like to have my whole collection on there so I never have to worry about which game to reference. So luckily, some absolutely amazing people in the chat were hanging out helping me do this, and for a while there I thought it just wasn't going to support them, but a couple of people kept chiming in and we got it working. So this is just all thanks to the amazing people who hang out at these live streams, and it worked perfectly. And in fact, when I redid the guide to work on a friend's Saroo, I used a 1 TB micro SD card, which holds basically everything you could imagine on there, and that was compatible too using the same guide. So I have it in written form here. I also should have a post out on social media, a quick video that shows you how to walk through this as well. I haven't finished that yet, so who knows if that'll be out by the time this goes public, but that's all there, as well as the original stream. As always, the original streams are very slow paced. I do everything in real time. I take my time. I wanted to clean out the inside of the Saturn. I wanted to make sure everything was removed properly. But if you just want to see it in action, or if you want to skip to the end to see some fast loading times on the Saroo, you could do that as well. But the full guide's right here. Hopefully the video will be up by the time you see this. And really the only thing to worry about is highlight the category and option and drop it right underneath the global part of the config file. I show you this in detail in the post and everything, so don't worry about that. Also, some kind of quick tips I found helpful that I learned during the stream is for in-game reset, hold the A, B, and C buttons on the controller and tap start to reset back to the main part of the game. And if you continue to hold A, B, and C and hit start a second time, you go back to the Saroo menu. This is only available when the controller is unlocked. So you know how when certain games boot, if you press start or any of the buttons, nothing happens. When the controller's locked out, it won't work. And it didn't work every time, but it worked a lot. And it's a handy feature, so I wanted to pass that along. And also, if you use the Saroo to launch original games from different regions or CDRs or anything, and you somehow end up resetting back to the Saturn's CD launch menu, just hit start again to go back to the Saroo menu. So for anybody who sat through that live stream, I think you've seen it firsthand how much time you could save by using in-game reset if you're doing testing like this. So I just wanted to share all that. But once again, thank you to all of the amazing people who hang out in these live streams and help. I just can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And check out the guide for the quick setup guide. And I guess the only other thing to note, which I say all the time, but it's definitely worth repeating, is the Saroo from J&T Studios was made to be using all brand new parts. It's high quality production, and the edge of the PCB is beveled. So right off the bat, it's going to be better than almost all other choices, but it also is the only one that uses the Retro Game Restore clear shell. And this is an injection molded shell that is the proper thickness. So anybody that has a Saturn that's had to jam an index card in the back to hold it in place knows exactly what I'm talking about. Some of these shells are too thin. And to be honest, if you have a Saturn that's been smashed up by action replay carts that weren't beveled like mine was, you might still need to put an index card in between it. I showed that in the video as well, by the way, in the live stream. But this Saturn that normally needed that doesn't with this cart. So J&T Studio Saroo is the one to get. If you already have a Saroo and it's working fine, but you want the better case, they sell just the case anyway. And links to everything else are right here, including the exact micro SD card I used if you want to do the same one for yours. So check it out if you're interested, but I was really, really impressed with the Saroo. That's absolutely going to be my go-to. And yes, there's compatibility issues, and most of the time you could use a workaround like burning a CDR and launching that, assuming you have a working ODE. And yeah, I know some homebrew won't work from that method, but there's just overall so many advantages to this thing. It's definitely my first go-to for people that want to use homebrew or backups, or basically just want a Saturn ROM cart, RAM cart, and save game cart all in one. So yeah, it's definitely something I recommend. And do some research. Maybe some of the other options might be better for a bunch of people, but if you're just starting out, you want a no installation, literally just configure your micro SD and plug it in, then this is probably the one for you. Well, that's it for this week. As always, thanks to everybody who watches, listens, plays nicely in the comments, and especially thank you to anybody who supports in absolutely any way, because it really is you who's keeping all this stuff going. So thank you all so much, and I'll see you next week. This week's Roundup is brought to you by Neo Paradigm Entertainment, connecting Southeast Asian influencers with opportunities in the West.